Welcome. My name is Todd Hines and I'm with Chemical Technologies. I've been in the industry for about 20 years now and I've been doing tech support for a good many of them. I'm here to give you a basic introduction to carpet cleaning. This section will deal primarily with hot water extraction cleaning. We're going to cover some of the nuts and bolts of the industry regarding fiber types, carpet construction, but also going to give you a kind of a behind the scenes look at exactly what the chemistry you're using is doing for you. But first, I want to make you aware of some of the tools that we've made available to you. The tech support line, where you can actually talk to myself or to another technician, is available from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Monday through Friday. You can also give us a call if there's a question or run into a problem. We'll do everything that we can to help. We have the Approach Choice Stain Guide app. You can download that from iTunes or Google Play. It's good for iPhone or Droid. We also have recently redesigned our website and made it mobile optimized. The mobile optimized site is designed to get you to the information you're looking for as quickly as possible. Minimal graphics. It's designed to load very, very quickly. It has the full product catalog, the odor guides, the stain guides, and the cleaning guides. So I highly recommend you check it out. And as for social media, we do have more videos like this on our YouTube channel, Pros Choice One. And as far as Facebook goes, if your company has a Facebook page, be sure to follow us. We do a lot of product announcements and updates, and we'll let you know, especially if there's going to be any kind of online classes or changes to the schedule. So stay in touch, and we'll definitely keep you updated. Okay, if you've ever called in for tech support and you don't tell me in your opening statement, the first question I'm going to ask you is, what kind of fiber are you dealing with? This is our foundation. It's our starting point. It tells us how aggressive we can get to do the best job possible without causing damage. The most common fibers you're going to run into are going to be nylon, olefin and polyester, and wool. These fibers have different characteristics and cautions. Let's start with nylon. Nylon is still very popular with the residential market. It cleans well, it wears well, but it is susceptible to both synthetic food dyes and organic stains. Nylon carpets being produced today actually have a protector that's applied to them at the mill. This is actually done during the manufacturing process, so right from the beginning it's got a protector on it. This protector does wear off, but it also means that we need to watch the pH of the products that we're using when we clean it. You can remove it and void warranties. It's a bad thing. Now, olefin carpets, on the other hand, are very, very common in the commercial industry. It's inexpensive and fairly stain resistant. And I'm saying stain resistance, not stain proof, because you and I both know there's absolutely nothing stain proof to a sufficiently motivated 5-year-old. Just saying. Olefin also has a tendency to want to mat down or crush. It has no memory whatsoever. So it really, once it wants to lay down, it's really hard to get it to stand back up again. That is one big difference between the olefin carpets and nylon. And polyester. Polyester has similar characteristics to olefin. It was kind of on its way out years ago, but in recent years we're seeing more and more of it coming back into the market, so we're addressing it here. And wool. You're going to see wool in some of your upper end residential homes. It is definitely more expensive, but it's also very soft. And that's awfully nice when you're walking around barefoot. You'll also see it in some restaurants and some hotels. That's not because of the texture in that case, but that's because the fiber is actually fairly fire resistant. They get serious considerations from their insurance companies for just having wool carpet rather than something that's more prone to burning. The pH of the products that you're using is very, very important when you're cleaning wool. You get too alkaline a cleaning process going on or leave it in too high an alkaline state, you can actually cause the fiber to yellow permanently. Once that happens, you're not going to be able to recover from that. Wool is definitely susceptible to synthetic food dyes and organic stains. This is one of those fibers that doesn't like oxidizers. So we had to develop some specialized chemistry just to deal with these kinds of natural fibers. And we talk about more about that in the stain class, but it's important to know oxidizers on wool, generally not a good thing. Sisal and seagrass. These fibers are out there. They're not that common, but we see them more in the form of area rugs rather than wall-to-wall. These fibers, they just don't like anything water-based. In theory, you can wet clean them, but realistically, the less moisture you use here, the better. We do talk more about these in the advanced class, so we're going to go ahead and move on. Fiber identification. You're going to get to the point, if you're not already there, where you can walk onto the job, take a look at the carpet, rub it with your hands, and you'll know what it is, just from the look and the feel. Until then, there are ways to determine what kind of fiber you're dealing with. To do this, you want to use a lighter and a pair of tweezers. You do want to use a lighter, not matches. Matches will have that sulfur smell, and that smoke is part of what you're using to identify the fiber, so you don't want that distorted. And you are going to want to use a pair of tweezers, just because burning your fingers in front of the customer, really not the most professional image. And while there are other things that you can use to hold the carpet fibers, just because certain recreational activities are becoming legal in more and more states, doesn't really mean that it's a good image or something that's good to do in front of your customer. When you're collecting fibers for your burn test, don't pull them from the center of the room. Go to the edge of the room, go to a closet, someplace where it's not going to be noticed, because when you start pulling fibers out of the carpet in front of the customer, they do tend to get a little uncomfortable. So just a note there to kind of watch where you're pulling your fibers from. And so you've got your fibers, you've got your supplies. You're going to go outside, because you don't want to be burning fibers inside the house or inside the apartment, and you're going to light it up. And the biggest determination you're looking for here is whether or not you're dealing with a synthetic fiber or a natural fiber. A synthetic fiber is going to bead up, where a natural fiber is going to char. When you burn it, the smoke, pay attention to it, because wool is going to smell like burning hair, cotton's going to smell like burning paper, olefin smells like asphalt or tar. When you are burning nylon, I have been told that nylon smells like celery. If that's what celery smells like, it's not any celery that I'm familiar with. Best thing I can do is to tell you to go out, get some fibers that you know are nylon, burn them, and familiarize yourself with the way it smells. And this is going to give you your baseline. You're going to know exactly how to identify the fibers, and knowing what kind of fiber that you're dealing with tells you how aggressive you can get on your chemistry. If you're doing commercial work, you have probably already seen yards and yards and yards of commercial glue down carpet. Perfectly normal. If you're doing apartments, you've seen a lot of cut pile carpets. In residential, you probably see cut pile carpets, high-low loop, even some plushes or shags. These different construction styles can bring their own type of challenges during the cleaning process. Most of them involve drying, but for now, we're going to look at the process as a whole for cleaning, and we get more into addressing those challenges in the advanced cleaning class. Okay, we've talked about the type of fiber that you're cleaning and the way that it's constructed. Now let's look at what you're actually removing from these carpets. And yes, 74 to 79% of the contamination in these carpets is going to be insoluble. It's not going to be able to be dissolved with water, so we're going to suspend it and remove it. This is going to include everything from silica to clay to dog hair to even dead skin cells. Kind of gross, but yeah. You also have solvent-soluble contamination. This is that greasy, oily soil that collects especially around entryways. It can be a real pain in the neck to deal with, but we're going to talk a lot about how to attack those kinds of soils. And you're also going to have water-soluble contamination. This is something that is in the carpet that is readily water-soluble. This is going to be the soda spill in the kitchen. This is going to be the laundry detergent that got spilled in the hallway. This is going to be salt from de-icer. This is anything that actually dissolves in water. Anything that doesn't fit into one of those categories is going to be considered a stain. If it doesn't come out with a basic clean, it's a stain. We talk a lot about this in the basic and advanced stain removal class. If you haven't been to one or checked out the video, highly recommend it. They cover everything from Kool-Aid stains to mustard stains, curry, grease, oil, fingernail polish even. So be sure to check those out. Alright, now we can really dig into the mechanics of cleaning. In order from top to bottom, you're going to vacuum, you're going to pre-spray, you're going to agitate, and then you extract. All four of these play an important part of the cleaning process. There's a saying in the industry, it's easier to vacuum dirt than to extract mud. This is true. Never underestimate the power of a good vacuum. Good pre-vacuuming makes your job that much easier. Remember we talked about the types of soils? Up to 79% of the soil in the carpet is going to be insoluble. So a good pre-vacuuming will actually remove up to 80% of that insoluble soil before you even break out your hoses. You can make it part of your pre-cleaning instructions for your customer. Now me personally, I did a lot of apartment complexes, and this was just an understanding we had with maintenance. Before we come in and clean, they pre-vacuum. So they did a lot of the work for us, but we still came in and removed the more difficult soils. That's the greasy, oily soils. You can make it part of your pre-cleaning instructions for your residential customers, or you can add it as a service. Whether or not you charge for that is gonna be up to you, but don't underestimate vacuuming. It really is an important part. This is where we start talking about the chemistry behind the cleaning agents. And I'm going to use the term cleaning agents because it applies to both the pre-sprays and the emulsifiers. pH is a factor that affects many aspects of both carpet cleaning and stain removal. We talk about pH a lot. Most of the soils that you're going to encounter are going to be on the acid side. To counter this, most of the cleaning agents that we use are on the alkaline side. Ideally, when you walk away, we want to leave the carpet in a neutral state. That's right there in the middle at 7. That's important. If you leave the carpet in too alkaline a state, it'll want to attract soil. That's really not a good thing. We want to leave the carpet in a neutral, residue-free state that's going to help the carpet stay cleaner longer and definitely make your customer happy. When we're talking about cleaning, there's 4 main components that make your process effective: chemistry, heat, agitation, and time, or chat. You may have seen this worded differently, but all 4 components are important for an effective cleaning process. When you decrease one, you've got to bring it up in other areas. Think about it like this. Wash your hands with grease on them. Ideally, you have soap for your chemistry, you've got hot water for your heat. Rubbing your hands gives you the agitation, and the time that you spend doing this is your dwell time. Add all these together and you have clean hands. Now remove one of those components. You've got cold water, not hot. What happens? You can get your hands clean, but it takes a lot more soap and agitation to get the job done. I have to say, the chemistry component we deal with is my favorite part. And it also has 3 main components: detergency, solvency, and alkalinity. There's a 4th component that can come into play, but we'll talk about that later. For now, just realize that all these factors are affected by heat. Go back to the hand washing. Wash your hands in ice cold water, wash your hands in lukewarm water, and wash your hands in hot water. Notice that it gets easier each time because with every 20-degree increase in temperature, that chemical reactivity doubles. You notice that I talk about grease a lot in this. That's because the sticky, oily soils, they're one of the more difficult types of soil to clean from the carpet for several reasons. 1, it loves to stick to fibers, especially olefin and polyester. 2, it hates water. And once it starts building up in the carpet, it attracts even more oily soils until you have that really thick buildup that you've got to really work to break down. This one soil type actually calls into play all four factors of our chat cleaning components, and also the more extreme components of our chemistry, that detergency, that solvency, that alkalinity. You have to use all of them together to actually make this work, to make this carpet clean. Okay, you know the old saying, oil and water don't mix. Well, this is true unless you know the trick to it. Detergent molecules have one end that loves water and one end that loves oil. These molecules, when you put them together, they will actually surround the oil, break it up, and disperse it into the water. Do you remember that old Dawn commercial? The one where they drop a bit of dishwashing detergent in the water and the oil disperses? Here, I'll show you.
Dawn takes grease out of
That's
your way.
micelle formation. The oil isn't disappearing, it's actually dispersing into the water. But there's a problem. When you're dealing with this thick buildup of oily soil, it's not as simple as just dropping a little soap on the carpet. Detergents can only form those micelles and disperse the oil when it can surround it. So what do? Well, if you're a manufacturer, that's me, you're going to increase the amount of solvents in your product. That means that those solvents immediately start working on the oil and breaking it up. And when it breaks up that oil, the detergents can at that point surround it, form those micelles, and disperse it. Now, if you're a cleaner, that's you, you're going to increase the amount of heat and agitation that you're using. The more you physically break up that grease, the more surface area those detergents have to work with, and the more they can suspend. The final component in this equation is alkalinity, or your pH. A manufacturer can only get so many detergents and so many solvents into a cleaning agent. So what do? Well, you make more detergent. You see, a long time ago, this bright penny figured out that when you combined lye with fat or oil, it would actually turn into soap. It would actually turn into a detergent. The technical term for this is saponification. Now, if you look at that and then apply it to our situation, the fat or oil isn't hard to identify, but lye is also known as caustic soda, or even sodium hydroxide. It's extremely alkaline. This is another reason why your cleaning agents are alkaline. What you're doing with this is you're actually taking the material that you're cleaning and you're turning it into more detergent. So the solvents are breaking it up, the detergents are actually are forming those micelles and they're suspending it, and then you've got the alkalinity that's taking even more of that oil that's being broken up and it's turning it into more detergent. So the process goes back and forth until you actually have everything broken up and suspended. The higher the pH of the product that you're using, the more grease and oil you can actually get to saponify and suspend. Up until now, I've been referring to cleaning agents because it encompasses a range of products, but now we're going to narrow it down and get more specific. We're going back to our cleaning process. We've already identified the fiber, the construction style, and we've pre-vacuumed. Now we're going to pre-spray and agitate. Whether you're putting your pre-spray down with a pump-up sprayer or you're using an injection sprayer, the hotter you can put down your pre-spray, the better. Remember our hand washing with hot and cold water. It'll cool quickly, but make that heat work for you while you can. And when the situation calls for it, get some agitation in there. If you've got a thick buildup of oily soil, it really does help. I realize that you may have this ultra-powerful truck mount that spits out, 3 million degree water and huge blowers that are just super powerful, but when you need it, there's no replacement for good old-fashioned agitation. Don't care if you're using a carpet groomer or you've got a floor machine with a carpet brush. When you need it, use it. Okay, kind of need to address the elephant in the room. I have been told on many occasions, you've got a million products. Why can't you just give me one pre-spray that works for everything? Well, the answer to that is really not everyone does the same kind of work you do. Some companies will focus on apartments and working with property management companies. Someone else may actually be focusing on residential, upper-end residential. You can't use the same products for everything. We've talked about detergency and alkalinity and solvents and how they work together. It's not that we need to make one pre-spray. It's we need to identify the pre-spray that's going to work best for you and what you're doing. Whether you're truck mounted or portable, using an RX-20 or a Rotovac. The basic process for extraction is the same: water and airflow. We pre-vacuum to remove the insoluble soil, and then we pre-spray it and agitate it to suspend everything else. Now we want to rinse it out. Some people use clear water, some like an acid rinse, some like an extraction emulsifier. It really just depends on the situation that you're dealing with. And hopefully by the time we finish, you're going to have a bit more understanding of what's appropriate for your situation. Just like the pre-sprays, we do have multiple products for extraction. What we're going to start focusing on here is the characteristics of each and which one is right for the kind of job that you're doing. These are the basic categories. Owner-occupied means exactly that. The owner of the house lives there. They bought the carpet, they paid to have it installed, and now they're paying you to come in and clean and maintain it. This is where you might find multiple fiber types. This is where in the upper end residential you may be seeing that wool carpet we talked about before. This is also where you're going to see multiple construction types. You're going to run into the Berber carpets, you're going to run into the high-low loop, and you're going to run into the cut pile. These are all things that will come into play when you're dealing with residential. The rental category. This is one of the commercial categories. This section would actually deal with apartments, with duplexes, rental homes. Anytime where you're dealing with the property management companies rather than the owners directly, these people have a specific agenda. Property managers, they want the unit turned and they want it occupied. The next kind of commercial work we're going to talk about is going to be commercial cleaning, dealing with offices. And finally, commercial buildings like restaurants, and I'll kind of put hotels in here too, just because this is one of those areas where you might also run into wool. Residential cleaning. Here is where you're most likely to run into both the synthetic and natural fibers like we talked about. I am going to address wool towards the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. But residential cleaning is where you're going to run into that stain-resistant nylon carpet, and warranties can be a factor. If you are cleaning with something that's over a 10 pH, you are technically voiding the warranty. If push comes to shove and there's ever a claim filed by the homeowner with the manufacturer of the carpet, one of the first things that manufacturer is going to do is he's going to get an inspector involved. That inspector is going to come in, test the pH of the carpet, and he's going to want to know what you cleaned it with. If you were outside of that pH range, you could very well find yourself with the finger pointed at you saying, you cleaned our carpets incorrectly, you voided the warranty, this is all on you. Stay under 10 pH. 9.5, you're golden. 9.9, you're good. But you go over that 10 pH, you're going to cause a problem if there's ever a warranty issue. Most of the time with older carpets, it's not an issue, but you got to actually stay within the right pH range if the warranty is ever in question. So we're not going to let that happen. For residential use, I'm going to say Dirt Chaser or Predator for your pre-spray. They both have a 9.5 pH, and you can use Dirt Chaser if you like liquids, or Predator if you like powders. But that makes them safe for any stain-resist carpets that you're going to encounter. For extraction, I do like Last Step. Last Step is an acid rinse that helps your extraction process remove more of those emulsified soils than just water by itself. Last Step also has both a conditioning and a drying agent built into it. So that drying agent actually helps your carpets to dry faster, and the conditioning agents in it really give you a nice soft feel to the carpet when it dries. This is more important in residential than anywhere else, just because you've got people walking around barefoot afterwards, and that nice soft feeling, they know it's clean and it feels good on their feet, really leaves a positive impression on your customers. When you use an acid rinse, you are depending more on your pre-spray for your cleaning power. Sometimes that's just not feasible. If the carpet's too heavily soiled and your acid rinse isn't cutting it, then it's time to break out the extraction emulsifiers. This gives you extra cleaning power to cut through those heavier soils. Pro Powder and Liquid Pro, Pro Powder for powders, Liquid Pro for liquids, they both have a 9.5 pH, so we're still within that safe range for stain-resistant carpets, but we get that extra cleaning power from having more detergency and solvency. At the recommended dilution ratio, You should not have any problem with residues, but a light overspray of Last Step will help to make sure that you are back at that neutral range. So just give it a quick spray after you clean and groom it in, and you should be good to go. Since we're talking about cleaning, let's talk about some things that aren't necessarily chemistry related, but should be addressed. As I've said, I've been in the industry for quite a while now, and when I wasn't in the field, I spent a good deal of time routing technicians and doing dispatch. You see, before shifting focus to manufacturing, we actually ran 10 trucks here in Sacramento. And I'm going to tell you that being yelled at by an apartment manager or by a homeowner because they're not happy really isn't fun. As carpet cleaners, we're generally the last vendors in the unit when it's being turned. So when painters or maintenance crews have to be called back in because your technicians left a mess, believe me, they let you know. And if you do work with with construction companies, and you start getting back charged because another vendor has to be called back in, they expect to be paid to fix what you messed up. Those back charges make those jobs less and less profitable. The same goes for moving furniture. It's one thing to move a sofa, but leave the china hutches alone. Sound systems, computers, televisions. Let your homeowners know that if they want the carpet clean under these things, they need to move anything breakable themselves. Believe me, your insurance company will thank you for it. And speaking of sofas, make sure you block and tab any furniture you do move. Setting furniture on wet carpet is just asking for trouble. Even if the legs are metal or have plastic underneath, it's better to err on the side of caution, just because furniture stains pull a lot of the profitability out of a job. It's one thing to take a stain out for a customer, that you get the charge for, but to have to come back and remove a stain that you caused really means you stopped making money. The homeowner may never remember that you took the time to check thresholds and baseboards, but I can guarantee you they're going to remember if you don't. On a related note, watch your overspray. When you pre-spray an area that actually adjoins stone, tile, hardwood, remember that there may be a wax or a polish or a finish on these surfaces. The same chemistry that you're using to break down grease and oil in the carpet could also go to work on those finishes. Keep a terry cloth towel with you and clean up any overspray immediately. Don't let it dry. Apartments. Okay, I didn't clean this unit, but I've seen plenty that look just like it. Here you're going to see a lot more of the nylons, but you're seeing the olefins and polyester carpets too. And depending on the tenant, the soil load is going to range from light to extreme. This is where the more aggressive chemistry is really going to work for you. Managers and leasing agents want to get empty units turned and occupied as quickly as possible because an empty unit doesn't collect any rent. Here you may encounter the more extreme soil brought in from parking lots, and I hate to say it, but some renters just aren't as careful about spills and stains as someone who had to actually pay for the carpet and have it installed. And this is just cleaning. We're not even talking about stain removal or repairs. If you really want to make money in apartments, and you can, master the specialty work. Not just cleaning, stain removal, odor control, repairs. If you can get that carpet clean and looking good for your customer and get them through one more tenant before that carpet has to be replaced, you're golden. Especially if you can do it for less than half the cost of replacement. I know, some of the marketing gurus out there disparage commercial work, but there's some serious money to be made here, and the work can sometimes be more consistent than residential cleaning. Residential is nice, and every day is payday, I get that, but you can run into some serious downtime after the holidays. So we're going to get more aggressive on the chemistry. Extreme Clean and Firewater both have a pH of about 10.5, so we're past actually being safe for any kind of natural fibers or that stain-resistant nylon that you find in residential work. But we're great for olefin carpets and polyester, and if you're in a cleaning situation where you need this kind of cleaning power and you are dealing with nylon, there probably isn't a lot of stain resistance left in the carpet. Remember, if you can't get the carpet clean and ready for the next tenant, they're going to have to replace it. And energy. Energy is a solvent booster that helps you to break up even more of the grease and oil, so your detergents and your alkalinity can go to work. Being a solvent, energy is neutral in pH, so it's not going to affect the pH of your cleaning solution. It's just going to help you break up more grease and oil. And if it's really nasty, you can always nuke it with Firestorm. If this doesn't get it clean, then it really is time to replace the carpet. Remember how I said we want to leave the carpet at a nice 7 pH so it's neutral? This is as far from neutral as you can get and not have it melt the container. It's got a pH of 13, so don't even think about using this on natural fibers. For that matter, don't even bring it into the same building with natural fibers. But when you need it, the results are spectacular. We did a contest on Facebook challenging people to show us their results with Firestorm. Take a look at the results. We asked our friends on Facebook to give us their feedback and share their experiences using Firestorm, our high pH pre-spray. Take a look at 2 of our favorites.
Yeah, I just took a couple pictures of it to kind of get the video.
We'll grab it.
Yep.
Hey, what's up, CTI? Here is another video of some really bad carpet that I'm cleaning using Extreme Clean with your Firestorm. Firestorm is a really great product, and I use it a lot. It saves us a lot of time, saves us a lot of money. Here's a little demo of how well it really works. As you can see, one pass takes it right up compared to 2 or 3 passes. The product speaks for itself. That's good.
Okay, I don't expect to see you using these if you're using Firestorm. In fact, I would really like to see you using an acid rinse regardless. But in extreme situations where it's do or die, an emulsifier can pull you through. Just remember to bring your pH back down again afterwards. CSS, or Color Stabilizer and Souring Agent, is another product you can use to actually do this. You can use it as a post-treatment. But you may not have it on hand unless you deal with upholstery or if you deal with area rugs. So last step will work just fine. But if you've got CSS on hand, just understand you can use that too. Pro's Choice Tech Tip. Smell is important in our industry. It's one of the first things people notice when they enter a room. Some customers, especially residential, may want as little as possible, so always ask before you use a deodorizer. But in other areas like the rental communities, some units may be vacant for a while. And a nice pleasant fragrance is actually a bonus when a leasing agent or a real estate agent is showing a unit. Any of the AirFresh products will leave a nice fragrance and disperse within a week or so. The Odor Eliminator, on the other hand, is a lot more long-lasting. When you're using the Odor Eliminator, a couple of ounces into a trigger sprayer after cleaning will give you nice, long-lasting deodorization without being overpowering. Commercial accounts bring a lot of opportunities and challenges. There are literally millions of square feet being cleaned on a yearly basis. We talk a lot more about this in the advanced cleaning and in the commercial cleaning modules, but here are the basics. Now, by and large, you're going to be dealing with a lot of commercial glue-down carpet here. You're going to be working in and around desks and cubicles, as well as long stretches of hallway. So watch your hoses around corners and keep an eye out for any personal items that may be knocked over and broken. So with these fibers, we're once again getting more aggressive on the pH for the pre-spray. And if you have heavy soil, don't stint on the agitation. So use your Extreme Clean or your Firewater, or even Firestorm if it's really bad. But I want to introduce you to a different rinse. This is SCR, or Soil Crystallizing Rinse. SCR is an encapsulating rinse rather than an acid rinse. You know, for residential, I really like Last Step. But for commercial work like this, SCR is a better choice. The encapsulating polymers in the product really go after residues, and they help to prevent wicking. Believe it or not, wicking is a very, very common problem in commercial glue-down carpets. Why? Well, check out the advanced cleaning class. We go into more detail. Restaurants. Restaurants are going to be a mix of soils and fibers. They're a mix of soils because you not only have that greasy, oily soil coming in from the parking lot, but you also have proteins coming in from the kitchen. This is also one of those areas where you might see wool carpet. Granted, probably not in your local Pizza Hut, but some of the nicer restaurants might be looking for that break in insurance, so be sure to check for that. We'll get to wool in just a minute, but for now, let's talk about proteins. Remember when we talked about detergency and alkalinity? Well, when proteins are involved from food spills and cooking, we can engage a fourth agent to work for us. That agent is going to be the enzyme-producing bacteria. Your protein spotters and your enzyme pre-sprays like Dirt Chaser and Prozyme are chock full of these little guys. Mix them with hot water, maybe 110 degrees or so. Don't go over 120 with this, just because when you get that hot, you do start to actually kill the bacteria that produce the enzyme, but you mix them with hot water, these little guys go nuts. The bacteria produces tons of enzymes that go out and they look for those proteins. They go after them the same way that the solvents go after oil, but there is a catch. This is a biological process, so make sure that you give it dwell time, because the dwell time is going to be really important. Pre-spray, agitate, let it dwell as long as you can, but not so long that it dries out. You're going to see pretty dramatic results. And once again, for restaurants, we're looking at SCR for our rinse, just because it really goes after those residues. Now then, wool fibers. Okay, upper end residential, some restaurants, some hotels, all of them have soil, all of them need to be cleaned, but wool has a few more cautions than synthetic fibers do. Wall-to-wall wool, you want to make sure that you're not overwetting it, because overwetting can not only cause browning, but it can also cause shrinkage. So watch your dry times, speed dry it whenever possible, and yes, this is where you really need to watch the pH of the products you're using. Another caution for dealing with wool, always test for dye stability. You'll see dye bleed more in area rugs than wall-to-wall, but it's definitely worth mentioning here anyway. I mean, technically, you should be testing for dye stability on every carpet you clean, but it's even more important with wool, just because a lot of times those dyes just aren't stable. Anytime you're dealing with complicated dyes or patterns, take a minute and do a crock test. Take your most alkaline solution, wet a terry towel with it, drop it on the floor, and stand on it for a few minutes. Did you get any dye bleed? Did any the dye from the carpet transfer into that towel? If it did, you've got a bleeder and you need to be careful. It's got to be stabilized before it can be cleaned safely. We talk about more of this with area rugs, like I said, and also in upholstery. So we deal with dye bleed there specifically. Check out the upholstery class and check out the advanced cleaning class, where we talk about this more in detail. Until then, take a look at the products that we do recommend using on wool fibers. Ultra TLC and Natural Fiber Cleaner are definitely our preferred products. We use these products a lot in upholstery and in area rug cleaning. Ultra TLC has a pH of about 8.8, so it's as aggressive as we can get and still be safe for those fibers. We are safe with the fiber, but we do want to make sure, once again, that you're testing for digestibility. Natural fiber cleaner has a pH of about 8.5. The natural fiber cleaner does a couple of things for you. It has a good amount of detergency to it, so it is helping with the clean, but it also has a brightening agent built into it. That brightening agent is going to help prevent browning, which can sometimes occur with the wool carpets, and it is going to give you an overall brightening effect on the carpet and really make it pop and look good. We use natural fiber cleaner a lot in the advanced cleaning class. Be sure to check that out. But if you're dealing with wool, test for digestibility, use Ultra TLC as your pre-spray, and use natural fiber cleaner as your rinse. It's a good combination. So to recap, identify your fiber and identify your carpet construction type. Pre-vacuum, pre-spray, agitate, and extract. It's your basic process. Alkalinity is like fire. Very useful, but use it carefully and always be aware of the fiber limitations. And finally, thank you for taking the time to watch this. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to give us a call. Our number is 1-800-368-1247, and it'll be posted a few places in this video.